Hello guys, Craig from fixitfallows, and as you can see once again I am in the garage, but I won't be for long because, as I've said in the past, I shall be going through those doors and doing a service on a London taxi, an LEVC TXE electric vehicle. However, the weather isn't playing ball, and as you guessed it, yes, it is British summertime. Anyway, let's try and get on with it. Okay, right, I've got my service kit here. I have got my oil filter. Okay, that comes with the replacement O-rings. There you go, there's the oil filter. Now on this vehicle, it is the type of oil filter that is contained in a plastic cup, and for that you need a socket to take it off. Okay, now as far as I'm aware, this is 86mm across and is 16 flutes. So I bought this one off of eBay. This cost me £7.98p. Okay, so we'll be using that. The filter was £10.30 off of eBay. Also got myself a new sump plug washer. Okay, it's not a copper variety, it is some sort of nickel or aluminium, not entirely sure, but yeah, that was £3.50. And here I have my oil. Now the oil in the TXE is, I believe it's 5.1 litres in the engine when you do an oil change, and 5.6 if you're also doing the filter change, so 5.6 of oil. So I got this stuff. This is Manol OW20. It meets all of the requirements of LEVC, or Volvo as it actually is. Actually stipulates there, look, Volvo VCC RB60 2AE, so it is to spec. Now I've actually got myself 10 litres. Okay, so 10 litres, obviously I'm going to have some left over for the next service, so it's cheaper to buy it this way. So I got these two 5-litre bottles with a complimentary bottle of screen wash delivered for £44. So that's £44, and it's good enough for 1 and a bit servicing, shall we say. Okay, so we're going to use all of this one, 1 litre of this one approximately. We'll have 4 litres left over, so theoretically we only need 2 litres for the next one. So once you've started buying it in this way, it becomes very cost effective. So all we need now is for the British weather to play ball and allow me to go through those doors and get on with the job. Fingers crossed. Right, so here we are at the engine bay of the TXE, and just for anybody who's not quite sure, this is where the bonnet release catch is. So as the bonnet pops up, you reach under there, you just have to sort of reach under, push that down and push it that way, and that releases the bonnet. Obviously once you've previously done the catch down in the what would be the passenger footwell. So here we are, the engine bay. I've always thought maybe it should have some sort of engine covering over it, you know. Based on modern engines, this looks quite raw and open, but anyway, here we are. That's your air filter box. I won't be changing that today because I'm actually doing this oil change mid-term. I think the service interval on these is what, 25,000 or 12 months. I'm actually doing it at 6 months, doing the oil change. I've already had a look at the air filter and it is remarkably clean. It's almost like it's just been put in, but you just got TX Torx bolts around there. That lifts off, change the filter. Very straightforward, but I'm not doing that today. Okay, dipstick is down there. Okay, we'll just have a look at that in a second. And the oil cap for the engine is there. It's a little bit tucked away. You're going to definitely need a funnel with a flexible hose to get in there because it's underneath this bulkhead. So just bear that in mind when you start to do it. Okay, the other thing we're going to have to get to is the oil filter, and as you can probably see, it is not accessible from here at all. Okay, it is down low on the engine, and to do that we're going to have to get underneath, and unfortunately we are going to have to remove the cowling that covers the underbelly, the under tray of the engine. So we're going to get under there and take that off so we can get access to the oil filter. Yeah, when we start draining the oil, we will take this cap off, okay, to let the oil flow through a little bit better. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the dipstick. Right, let's reach down, let's pull out that dipstick. Just going to clean it off first. Let's put it back down. Let's pull it out. As you can see, got plenty of oil in there, but it's just starting to go that sort of caramelly colour. Okay, a little bit darker. With a petrol engine, it starts to go a darker caramel as it gets more used. On a diesel engine, you'd expect to see that black pretty much after a few weeks of usage, but this is a petrol engine. But yeah, doesn't look too bad, but going to change it just to be on the safe side. Okay guys, here we are underneath the vehicle. I've got the engine cover off, and it's now given us access to the oil filter and to the sump nut that is on the back there of the sump. Okay, I've got it on axle stand, it's all good. What I'm going to tell you at this point though is getting off this engine cover is ridiculous. It was a lot of bolts. I shall show you that in a second. Why they don't just have a service access flap here for the filter and another one there for the sump like they have, like I know they have on say like Mini Countryman, etc. This is madness. Anyway, it's off. Let me go and show you the cover. There we go, engine cover's off, but there are, what are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts along the front, a further 5 across here onto an aluminium member under the engine bay, then 3 each in the wheel arch linings on each side, and then 2 at the back. As I said, why they couldn't put a service hatch here and here, I don't know, but you end up with a lot of bolts. One thing I would also say is these smaller bolts, these are all TX bolts, I think they're 25s and 30s. These ones at the front go into these clips and they do seem to start getting a bit crudded up. I am going to take the option of just cleaning out the threads with a tap and maybe put a little bit of grease on them just to stop them being so stiff. Anyway, it's out, let's do the oil. Okay, now to take the sump nut out, it's a 17mm bolt there. I've got my oil capture tub here. I've already taken out the oil cap on the top of the engine to allow the oil to flow easier. So it's just a case of breaking this. So there we go, it's come undone. Let's get ready to catch the oil. Okay, we'll let that drain down, fully let that drain down before we worry about taking out the oil filter. Right, okay, let's give this a sump nut a quick clean up and replace the washer. So I've just got some brake parts cleaner there, just spray that on there, give that a clean. So as you can see on this one, someone has put a copper washer on there before, so you could easily get yourself probably much cheaper than the £3.50 I paid for that. Just get a job lot of copper washers off of somewhere like AliExpress. I'll give you the measurements for these on the screen here, and just order some to have sat on your shelf for when you need servicing. Alright, that's that cleaned up. Let's go and put it back in the sump. Right, okay, sump nuts back in. I've got my oil collector there ready. I'm going to take off this oil filter. There we go. So there will be some residual oil in here which we will need to capture. Okay, so we'll let that drip out. That is quite a mucky job. Right, so the oil filter has stayed in there. We're going to get that out. So I'm going to use this. This is actually a poo bag. So we're just going to reach up and get it and just pull it out, and then there it goes, completely contained in the poo bag. And we can just wipe away all of this oil and have a clean up around here. Okay, let's go and get the new filter. Right, okay, there's the old filter, and what's interesting, it actually says Link & Co on there. You may or may not have seen some Link & Co cars on the roads. It's a Chinese brand. It's actually owned by Geely, so Geely TXE, LEVC, Volvo, all the same. And then surprise, surprise, on the bottom of the oil holder itself, Link & Co there. Right, so we need to replace this seal around here. The new filter comes with the seal already on the top. So there's the new seal to go around the housing there. There's a second seal there. That's because on Volvos they have a bleed valve on the bottom there, which is not present on this one, so we don't need that smaller seal. So anyway, we just got to take off that seal from there, put that new one on. Right, so let's get that seal off. You'll probably find that somewhere around the housing there's a slight little indentation by the seal there where you can just get a screwdriver underneath like that, and we'll just pry that off. So there's the old seal. Just give that bit of a wipe around. Take the new seal and just stretch it over. And get it down into its position like so. Right, okay, we just take some of the new oil. I'm just going to dip my finger into it and then just rub the oil just around that rubber seal like that, and then that will allow it to screw back into the housing on the engine without binding. So let's put the filter in, the housing back on, and then we can start putting the oil back in the engine. Right, let's put the filter back in. I've also put a bit of oil on my finger and run it around this seal at the top there. So we just offer that up and that pushes into place. We can then take the housing and that goes up in there like that and screws into place. Right, okay, full disclosure. Whilst using this tool to tighten back up the filter housing, it started to slip. I couldn't do it properly. Now, I've put the vernier calipers across the filter housing and I've got a measurement of 85.5, and the vernier calipers on the inside of this tool make it 86.6. So I'm not sure whether the tool's wrong or if my filter housing is wrong, but I've got a bit of a dilemma. So anyway, to get over this, what I've done is this. I've had to adapt the tool. So on each of the 16 flutes in there, I have put a little bit of an additional fillet. Now I have some of this. This is like very thin gauge. I'm not sure if it's zinc or aluminium, I'm not entirely sure. Using some tin snips, I cut 16 strips and placed them on the inside there, and they're long enough that they go up the inside, and I'll bend them over the top, so effectively they hang round the edge, and then I've held them all in place with some masking tape there. Okay, so every flute on the inside of this has now got an additional bit of metal. The vernier calipers across there make this 85.6, and it now works a treat. We can cut back to the cab where I now use it. Right, so that works an absolute charm. I've been able to loosen it off, no slippage at all with the cup. I can now torque it back up to the 25 Newton meters. There we go. And now I've just got to get that off because it's much tighter fit. There we go. And now I'm just torquing the sump plug nut to 38. There we go. Right, so I can now pour in my first 5 litres. And now we can do 0.6 of a litre from the second bottle. Okay, and here's the remaining 600mm. Can now put the oil cap back in, like so. Lower the vehicle down, let all the oil settle, and then we'll check the dipstick. Right, okay, engine cowlings all back on, the cab is down off of the axle stand and the jack, so it's all back level. I've just started the engine, let it run a little bit, and it's just stood. I'm going to check the oil now, so we'll pull out the dipstick, give that one white first of all, pop it back in. And there we are, we have oil up to about 3/4 of the way on the dipstick, and it is definitely much cleaner than the old oil. Okay, still got a little bit of a caramelly colour, but not as dark as it was. So there we go, that is a job done. Put that back in, make sure the oil cap's done up tight. Have a little clean up from any spillages or drops. Good to go. So there we go guys, there is an oil change done on an LEV TXE. Biggest problem is getting that engine cowling off from underneath of all those bolts. I think it's 24 bolts, and then you just need the right socket for getting the oil filter off. So anyway, thanks again, give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe if you haven't, check out some of my videos. Cheers, goodbye.